Did you know that the entire world is now joining Canada's covert boycott against the United States? What started out as a straightforward reaction to increased tariffs has evolved into something unexpected. Vacations to New York and Florida were canceled, American goods were left on empty shelves, and even European communities switched from Coca-Cola to local apple juice. People initially dismissed it with laughter. The American economy cannot be harmed by Canada, can it? Subsequently, retailers in British Columbia began to display Canadian flags on their produce. Flights to the U.S. fell by more than 70%, and consumers proudly rejected U.S. brands. The world came to a sudden realization. Everyone else could push back if Canada could, and that's precisely what took place. France, Spain, India, Mexico, and Denmark. The wave was joined by 6 major economies and 6 countries. They each have their own motivations, but when combined, they produce something far more significant than any trade war. Australian imports to Europe are replacing beef from China, and apps are being developed to assist customers completely avoid American products. This goes beyond politics. It concerns decisions made by regular people in supermarkets and dining establishments that have an impact on the world economy. If you believe that don't assume it's only about a soda brand or a few oranges. We are discussing billions of dollars, plummeting tourists, and even friends publicly rejecting U.S. defense contracts. There is too much to ignore in this story. We're going to explain how this Canadian boycott spread like wildfire and permanently altered the world economy. So be sure to hit like and subscribe right now. First place goes to Canada. One of America's biggest trading partners and its nearest neighbor, Canada, is where the story starts. Ottawa had the option to use the standard diplomatic approach when President Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. Rather, Canadians reacted in a way that attracted international notice. They used their wallets instead of threats or firearms. All of a sudden, commonplace purchasing decisions became into political statements. Families paused to read labels as they moved through the grocery aisles. Many consumers just placed products that originated in the U.S. back on the shelf. Supermarkets in Canada took note and embraced it. Shops started showcasing domestic products by using stickers featuring vibrant Canadian flags. Produce from Canada, Europe, or even South America took the place of items that previously featured U.S. logos. The boycott extended beyond just food. On dealership lots, U.S. automobiles languished unsold. As Canadians choose to go domestically or abroad, vacation packages to Disney World and New York City lost their appeal. The trend was further encouraged by travel advisories. According to reports, flights from Canada to the U.S. had decreased by 70% by the summer, an astounding collapse for a relationship this intimate. Avoiding American products wasn't the only thing at stake. It has to do with pride. Purchasing locally was seen by many Canadians as a way to defend themselves against unjust treatment. This was the spark. It was a straightforward yet impactful message. Perhaps the rest of the globe might challenge America's hegemony if Canada could. Mexico comes in second. Mexico added fuel to the fire of Canada, ignited it. Mexico has been a vital link in the supply chain of North America and one of the United States' largest export destinations for many years. Ordinary people, however, reacted sharply when Trump publicly disparaged Mexican leaders, pushed severe tariffs, and threatened to build the wall. Don't purchase American goods. Explore a supermarket in Guadalajara or Mexico City. You may observe the change for yourself. Chilean, Ecuadorian, or even Italian fruit now occupied shelves that had formerly held American apples or yams. In certain stores, imports from South America, Europe, or nearby farms nearly obscured U.S. products. At times, the boycott lacked organization and volume. Millions of families made the silent daily choice to purchase something else. Additionally, tourism suffered greatly. Mexican tourists are among the most frequent visitors to the United States, although their numbers have been rapidly declining. Flights from Mexico to U.S. locations fell by 25% in just the first quarter. Previously vacationing in Los Angeles or Orlando, families started visiting beaches in Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, and Baja California. The message was obvious, and the money remained in Mexico. If Mexico didn't have to cross the border to spend its pesos, it might have respected its neighbor. Politics wasn't the only factor here. It was intimate. Mexicans demonstrated that even a nation with strong ties to the U.S. might make a different decision. And when they did, everyone began to take notice. Denmark comes in third. One of the most bizarre diplomatic incidents in recent history marked the start of Denmark's boycott tale. And in 2019, President Trump proposed that the United States purchase Greenland, a large island in the Kingdom of Denmark with a population of more than 50,000. What was probably supposed to be a daring real estate move became a global slur. Many Danes viewed the concept as a rejection of national sovereignty, and the Prime Minister of Denmark referred to it as ridiculous. The repercussions extended beyond irate news reports. All in Denmark, customers started using their wallets to subtly express their discontent. Clear, made in Europe labels were introduced by supermarkets to make it easier for customers to recognize non-American goods. It was more than just food. It had to do with communicating. Ordinary Danes chose to support European and local products rather than reward what they perceived as Washington's contempt. Mass protests and a flamboyant boycott weren't streets. Rather, it was subdued yet powerful. Consumers started choosing European brands over American ones. Once popular U.S. products, such as clothing labels and packaged meals, began to lose their attractiveness. Little daily decisions like choosing Danish cheese over foreign ones turned become silent protests. The Greenland incident was significant to Denmark regarding honor and dignity. It demonstrated that a smaller country might resist America through consumer choices rather than by using military. By doing this, Denmark became one of the many nations that are changing international trade, one shopping cart at a time. France is number 4. Francis was proud and loud, whereas Denmark's boycott was silent. President Emmanuel Macron's administration in France, Macron publicly referred to American tariffs as unjustified and cruel. However, politicians were not the only ones who responded most strongly. It originated with regular French citizens. They made the decision to reject American goods in order to fight the trade war their own way if Washington desired one. At the local level, one of the most symbolic actions took place. In a number of communities, Coca-Cola, the worldwide emblem of American, was excluded from public gatherings. At community events and festivals, locally produced apple juice was used in place of Coca-Cola. This was more than just drinks for many French people. It had to do with pride in the country and defying outside pressure. Boycott campaigns spread quickly on the internet. Social media groups urged users to stay away from U.S. brands. Some even compiled lists of French-made alternatives, or somewhere in Europe. Targets frequently included well-known American corporations, including Apple, Tesla, McDonald's, and Amazon. And it was successful. According to surveys, between 6 and 10% of French people were in favor of boycotting U.S. products. The protest also included tourism. During Trump's presidency, several French tourists publicly declared they would not visit the U.S. It was supported by the numbers. One of the U.S.'s most significant international tourist sources was severely impacted by the sharp decline in French visitors to the U.S. The boycott had cultural and economic ramifications for France. It was about demonstrating that a proud country could stand tall by standing by its own, while simultaneously rejecting what they perceived to be unfair treatment. Spain is number 5. Although Spain doesn't usually make headlines throughout the world like France or Canada, it plays an equally important part in the boycott movement. Significant. The backlash against American goods in Spain didn't start with angry rants. It started with a straightforward statement posted on social media, in stores, and in homes. Purchase locally. The concept was simple. When Spain grows its own fresh produce, why purchase American oranges, lettuce, or pre-packaged salads? Local campaigns proliferated throughout cities throughout Spain, urging customers to select produce cultivated in Valencia or Andalusia rather than American imports. It became apparent in supermarkets. Convenience goods and American salad kits were replaced by Spanish or European options on shelves. It was more than just groceries, though. The boycott gained traction because to social media initiatives. Both activists and regular people exchanged lists of avoid American brands and looked for local alternatives. Posts with hashtags like Complol by Bill Local became popular, particularly among younger Spanish citizens who wished to use their daily expenses as a means of protest. There was a cultural undertone to the movement as well. Spanish people take great pride in their agricultural and culinary traditions. Avoiding U.S. imports was more than just a method to express disapproval of tariffs. It was a means of commemorating national identity as well. Political protest became gastronomic pride as restaurants started to emphasize local foods even more. Despite its tiny appearance in comparison to larger economies, Spain's boycott was crucial in demonstrating how local pride and international politics can coexist and how even seemingly insignificant decisions can have a significant impact. India comes in at number 6. Perhaps the most important of all was India's involvement in the boycott movement. Due to its immense size and expanding economic might, India, home to over 1 billion people, is one of the world's fastest-growing consumer marketplaces. For many years, American businesses viewed India as a lucrative market. Retail companies, IT behemoths, and fast food franchises hurried to open locations and increase their footprints. But the relationship abruptly shifted when President Trump declared imposing 50% tariffs on Indian imports. Rather, instead of giving in Indian authorities and business leaders mobilized their populace to resist. Boycotts of American goods were advocated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi supporters. This was particularly potent since it was not limited to political elites. Regular customers joined in. Household names in the U.S. were swiftly targeted. Coca-Cola, once seen as aspirational, Apple, Amazon, and McDonald's all abruptly came to represent foreign exploitation. The irony was glaring, in fact. India, which has more Domino's pizza restaurants than any other U.S. nation, was now advising its people to abandon the company. The boycott was about more than just tariffs for many Indians. It has to do with pride, independence, and self-reliance on the international scene. Selecting regional brands turned into a nationalistic act, and avoiding U.S. gadgets or purchasing used apparel became modest, but significant means of protest. India's involvement demonstrated that the boycott was no longer restricted to America's allies or neighbors. It was now worldwide, extending from North America to Europe and to the most populous democracy in Asia. 6 countries transformed ordinary